Today, 5th grade artists, you briefly looked at the work of Samantha Morris. Today you're going to be creating a monochromatic painting, meaning one color, that you are going to mix a tint of. A tint is a color mixed with white. So number 3s are going to need to go and grab a tray of paints for your table to share. And when you get the paints, you need to decide which one color will you be working with, plus white. I think I'm going to work with the color red. At the drive-thru, you're also going to need to grab a piece of tag board. There will be tape out at your tables. And number 3 chairs, you also need to grab 2 mixing trays for your neighbor to share and a water cup and paintbrushes. So the first thing I do is always the same. I grab a pencil and I write my name, Miss G, and my class code. I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to start by taping off my geometric shapes. Now, 5th graders, make those shapes really large. You don't want them to be super tiny, okay? And when I stick the tape to my paper, I always stick it on my pant leg a little bit first, and that gets some of that adhesive off, and it gets some lint from my clothes onto the tape so it won't rip my paper as I pull it up. Okay, so I'm going to lay this out, and I'm kind of keeping in line so that I have a nice straight line to work with. You might also end up using a scissors to kind of snip off to make sure you have a nice clean edge. I am going to lay out my tape design on my piece of tag board, keeping my shapes pretty large. When I have my geometric design all laid out with the tape, you might notice that some of the spots I needed to come back and trim with my scissors so that it made a nice angle. I am being really careful that I'm laying my tape down and it's sticking to my paper flat, so when I peel that tape up, I'll have a nice white line. Now, like I said, you're only going to be working with one color, and I chose red. So my neighbor and I will share this mixing tray even if both of us aren't using the same color. When I mix tints, I just use a little bit of paint and I twirl it off on my tray. I wash out my brush. Of course, before I dip in the white, because the white will get dirty pretty quickly if we're not washing our brushes out, and a little bit of white. And from there I can start mixing my colors. So I'll grab a little bit of red and add a little bit of white and start playing with that color to make a gradient. A gradient is where I go from lights to darks. When I paint back and forth to paint in that one area. I might decide that I'm going to make a pattern with these colors, so I might use this one color on all 4 of my corner shapes. You decide though, 5th graders. Okay? Now I ran out of that one color. I've got to try to remake it exactly the same, and that's what gets tricky about mixing these tints and shades. Do you notice how I'm just using a little bit of paint at a time? If I use a big scoop or a big glob, I will mix way too much of that one color. And if you and your neighbor are doing the same colors, that might work out okay. But chances are you're not, and that will be a waste of our paint. So, mixing a little bit of white, a little bit of red at that same spot so I know if I had the same color. I'm getting pretty good at that one. I think I'm going to mix even lighter as I go into the center. So I need a little bit more white from my cup. I need to wash out my brush so that I don't get that cup of white full of pink. If it drips, I wipe it on the lip, scoop up a little bit of white, twirl it off on my side of the tray, and I can mix some more. Even lighter tint of red. A tint of red is really pink. All right, 5th graders, you are going to fill your paper today with a monochromatic tint geometric pattern. You are only using one color today. So if you come back next week, we will start adding in our shades of that one color. But today we're only going to be working with tints. I can't wait to come back and see what you've created.